Hey guys, what's going on? So today we're going to talk about all the complaints that I have about upcoming season of Discovery and just kind of the direction of Classic. The reason I wanted to get this out first before I did any other videos is because I have had some comments about, what's been going on at BlizzCon and kind of what's been discussed. And I don't want to give off the impression that I think everything that they're doing is a positive. I think there are some negatives, so I'd like to discuss those now before kind of going on with my content in the future, where I'm going to try and be as positive as I can about everything, obviously. So my first big complaint slash concern is class fantasy. So one of the big things about classic WoW is classes are kind of in their most pure form. People kind of look back to classic WoW with fond memories of the classes and with how they played and kind of the jankiness and simplicity of it all. And when we go to Season of Discovery and we look at some of the changes that are coming to the classes, a lot of the abilities are coming from later expansions, and also they tend to kind of muddy the waters with class fantasy. For example, when you have a rogue that is able to start doing some ranged damage and be able to prevent some of the kiting and issues that a rogue has with that, and then you have, say, a mage who does amazing damage but now all of a sudden can fill the role of a healer, it kind of starts to muddy the waters of class fantasy, and that is one of the things that I really do have concerns with. It's one thing to kind of tweak the classes and change them in the ways that some of their abilities that they currently have function, and also kind of how they play at endgame with balance. But changing core abilities and giving classes new abilities that don't fit so much with their class fantasy does obviously raise some red flags with the player base. And that moves us into difficulty. A lot of these abilities are extremely overpowered. If you look at one class, you might say, wow, paladins are going to be so broken. Paladins have so many great abilities. They're going to be, the best class in the game. And then you look at, let's say, shaman, and then you say, whoa, hold on a minute, paladins look nice, but man, shamans are going to be so broken. And you do this throughout all the classes. By the time you get to the 9th class, you look back and you say, hey, all these classes look really overpowered. Now you put all of those classes together and they're just stomping through content, and that's one thing that I get worried about. I don't think classic WoW is hard. Let's get that out of the way. Classic WoW is not hard. It's very simple, but the problem is I don't want raids to become so trivialized that they need to be buffed, and then in terms of buffing them, they make them not feel like classic. Classic is very simplistic, as I said, with your spells going out, the boss's interaction and everything like that. I don't want the screen to all of a sudden look like it does in retail, where a lot of players just don't even know what the hell is going on. Or you need like a million add-ons to track different things, or, tell you where to stand, or this, that, or the other thing. So that is one concern that I have, is just kind of difficulty and how the world feels. I want the world to still feel dangerous. I don't want all these abilities to just make you feel like a literal god running around. That's the whole problem with retail. For example, my wife, she got onto retail the other day because of the stuff that was discussed in BlizzCon, and within like an hour or so, she was like level 10, and she was already like riding around on like mounts and things like that. And she was saying, I see the huge difference between retail and vanilla. And I was explaining to her, just how that's why a lot of players go to classic. So obviously that is one concern that I have, is just difficulty. And does the world still feel dangerous? Does it still feel like it poses some sort of risk to just go out or go to a higher level zone or be running around? So that moves us into kind of just wrapping up with the simplicity of classes and also raids. When you go into a raid, it's more about grouping and finding all the players and getting together and getting in Discord, and it's a lot more to do with kind of just setting a time, getting together, and that's your biggest hurdle, is just players not having to reschedule or cancel or this, that, or the other thing with 40 players. When you look at how they would have to change raids to make them still somewhat difficult, and like I said, Classic's not difficult. I don't want you to get that misunderstood, but there's a difficulty in the grouping process and everything like that. And so when you have classes that can fill tons of roles, or you have the ability to bring whatever because the content is so easy, I do find that a little worrying. And then also, in some of the streams that I saw the other day, for example, SFan, he soloed a level 25, whatever mob within the Black Fathom's Depths raid that they were doing. And I mean, being able to solo a mob that's in a 10-man raid is a little concerning. I don't know if that should be how it works, but I mean, we will see how things play out, but this is one concern that I do have. So moving into the next topic, this is a complaint, but also just kind of a critique on my part. I would have liked to have seen all of these kind of buffs or things like that scaled way down so that they weren't as game changing, and then I would have liked to have seen them thrown in as trinkets, rep rewards, quest rewards, items, buffs, things like that, so that your main class stays the same, but say every class out there could get a trinket that functions as a more toned down Wind Fury totem or something like that. That allows any class out there to partake in that content, but also it doesn't make all the classes broken and have to deal with balance issues and things like that. It's kind of more of a way that you see Classic now. For example, engineering is almost a must with most classes who want to PvP, and engineering allows players to get almost abilities, like rocket helm or grenades. Those are almost as powerful as a kidney shot or ability like that, but it allows you to have them on any character. I know that's a little bit of a reach saying it's like kidney shot, but grenades are powerful. So I would have liked to have seen them go that route instead. But anyways, I also am worried about the whole rock, paper, scissors class balance. So we all know that Classic WoW is definitely far beyond balanced, but that's kind of what gives it its charm. If a warrior is running around in world PvP and he sees a mage and the mage is attacking him, he's probably going to try and run, or he's going to know that he needs to use basically everything in his toolkit to beat this mage, because like in rock, paper, scissors, mage basically always beats warrior. Now, rogue is going to lose to a warrior, so warrior gets to beat a rogue in most situations. Rogue versus mage, it's a much closer match. That's a fairly decent match up there. But as you go through all the classes, they kind of have that sense of some classes are very strong against others and some classes are very weak against others. With some of these abilities that the classes are getting through their toolkits with runes, it's going to throw in a lot of class imbalances, and I don't really know how Blizzard plans to deal with that. Probably just kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, well, this is what you get with changes, and imbalances happen in Classic WoW, so they're happening now, and I don't disagree, but I also think that it's a little bit frustrating to see classes that are already very strong, say a rogue in PvP, get a shadow step, so now they have a gap closer and it's harder for classes to kite them, and they also have ranged gun abilities that put slows on targets and things like that. So that to me for PvP is very worrying. So that's just another one of my complaints. My next thing that I want to complain about in this video is the just new systems being implemented. I truly believe that if you want to do Classic and you want to do Classic Plus, you don't touch the base game. All you do is add things in that are already a thing. So for example, you could take tailoring and you could make new recipes and maybe allow another 100 skill up points. You could take a new zone and put in some new quest hubs or some new reputation farms, things that don't make the game feel like a new expansion, but it feels like Classic Plus. So, for example, the reason people are calling it Classic Plus is because it's content added onto Classic instead of a whole new expansion. If I wanted a new system like Titan Forging or jewel crafting or something like that, I'd go and play that expansion. So the rune system, while I do think it is kind of interesting because it's not tied to talents, and it allows classes to kind of have a lot of freedom, and I can get into that later in a rune video. I do worry that, these new systems, like what's next, then you have transmog or you have this, that, or the other thing, and then the game just slowly gets towards retail, or it slowly gets further and further away from the things that make players love Classic WoW. So to me, Classic Plus is not an expansion. Classic Plus is solely new content on top of the base game. So no new game breaking changes or new systems or anything like that. I just want the game with some added content, more or less. The next thing I've seen a lot of people talk about is private servers and kind of Blizzard knocking stuff off of private servers. I agree. I definitely see where you guys are coming from. I have played said private servers. Are they fun in some aspects? Yes, but also they are somewhat odd because there's literally zero class fantasy. Everyone's kind of everything. And I don't think, as of seeing the rune system now, that it is to that level or to that extent. However, I do see what people are saying and how they kind of just borrowed systems from other games. But, we'll see how things play out. I also really do believe that this is the best way for Blizzard to go about things. As you see, this is not titled as Classic Plus. This is not a standalone thing. This is a Season of Mastery. So the great thing about Seasons of Mastery is they do have an end, as we have seen with the last Season of Mastery, and then they also allow Blizzard to take what was good, take what the players enjoyed, take what the players loved about that season, and move it into the next season or into a Classic Plus. So I almost look at this as almost a beta test. I did hear not Asmongold, I did hear S-Fan saying that on his live coverage of the event, that he kind of thought it seemed more of like a beta, and I do agree with that. I think that seeing how they are pushing things out, this allows them to kind of gain feedback from players and see how they want to go and do things moving forward. So I really think that if you don't like certain things in the game, you need to be vocal and you need to stand up and, say the things that you want to say. The other thing that I will say is, and I'm very guilty of this as well, a lot of times the things that players want are actually a negative, like a net negative to the game. It's just the same thing in life, everyone wants to have millions and millions of dollars. Everyone wants to be, extremely wealthy. Everyone wants to not have to go to work. Everyone, wants all these different things. However, if you get them, then the problem is a lot of times you realize that that's not the fulfillment that you actually want. So I really think that a lot of the kind of annoying things in Classic, or the things that you think are a more of a negative aspect of the game, actually kind of gives that sense of adventure, or gives that sense of difficulty or progression or accomplishment, that if they kind of started changing to a lot of these things that some players do want, you would get further and further away from that. That's why I think it is important that, we've all established that people like Classic. So I would like to see small changes that make the game feel fresh and new, but don't change from the baseline design. That's kind of my 2 cents on Classic Plus. Beyond that, other complaints I have, they're all just kind of smaller things that we'll kind of have to see how things play out. At the moment, we still don't have a lot of questions answered. It does sound like Blizzard is going to kind of listen to players, and they claim they have been listening to players, which I do agree with, but I don't know of any players that asked for a mage healer, but we'll see how things go. And I'm going to have a a video on every single class and their runes, and then I want to do a video just on runes in general. I have a lot of videos planned, basically, is what I'm saying. So I'm excited to kind of come back and make some new content, be able to talk about new things. This is kind of what I loved about my original videos in Classic, was talking about the game that I loved and being able to kind of show you guys some new stuff. And now that there's actually new content, I'm glad to be back and be able to go through that again with you guys. So yeah, should start streaming here in the future. Maybe just some streams of me, doing some PvP casually on era servers and just discussing stuff in the chat with you. So you can follow my Twitch, or I also will probably just dual stream here as well on YouTube. So yeah, take care, guys, and hope you guys are good, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.